Hi, this is Ryan from Clovis Star News, and I'm just reporting on what happened with Chris Cornell's death. Chris Cornell's wife blamed his death on an FDA-approved psychoactive drug, Ativan, or lorazepam, in its generic form. And this hits close to home to me because I lost a brother who was also on this Ativan or similar benzopine type of drug when he was 16. Would be 15 years ago that he died. This January of 2017. Chris Cornell left a big impact on me. I have a big black hole sun tattooed on my back, and the black hole sun, was a song of his, and it kind of represented a void that I was feeling at that time. When I was 17, just a real conundrum I felt in my soul. But wanted to talk about this prescription drug issue in the United States. The United States uses more prescription drugs, more SSRI drugs than any country ever, period. Higher than most countries by at least twice as much. And that's including countries that are developed nations with, medical services like the UK, and, all of Europe. It's pretty astounding. I wrote about it several times. You can see something I wrote at Behind Zion Curtain recently. I didn't go into the details of my brother's death until my mom started trying to blame my brother's death on me, and so I gave a little bit of clarity to that. Anything that my mom thought was a problem in our lives, instead of dealing with it, talking with us, sitting down, having a heart-to-heart with us, or trying to work on it in a motherly or parental fashion, it was immediately get drugs for us instead, or send us to some sort of a doctor or inpatient rehab or something. All four of my siblings went through this kind of treatment. And my mom was after my brother died, years after my brother died, she would try to eventually blame me, saying, "Oh, Ryan was so mean, Ryan was so horrible, Ryan, he just, you can't believe how mean he was, and that's why, our kids were depressed and this and that." And, instead of saying, giving a full picture, she always ignores the fact that my dad was a drunk, and they were fighting over, marital infidelity and things like that. And that's the truth. I mean, they lost a house to bankruptcy, foreclosure. My dad went to jail, and I was 12 years old when all that happened. And that was the last time I lived at my parents' house full time. After that, I moved in with my grandma, then I moved in with my cousins, then I moved in with friends. And then by the time I was 17, I was homeless in Seattle. So it's amazing that she could even, pin anything on me, because I wasn't there. But, this is my little brother who committed suicide. You can go to justin-thompson.com. This is him and I right before he committed suicide, taking a road trip to Spokane. And, we had a really good relationship. He was my best friend. There's so many. See, I got his tattoo, image of him tattooed on my shoulder. That was right after the tattoo was done. Me and him here hanging out. He was such a cute guy. My only blood sibling. I have, total of 9 siblings, including him, and he was my only full blood sibling. The rest of them were half. This is me and him during his birthday, about a year before he died. And he was an artist too. That's what makes me think of Chris Cornell. My mom had him on Zoloft, and I believe it was an anti-anxiety medication similar to Ativan. It might have been Ativan, I can't remember exactly. And that's what he overdosed on. He took a few, I guess, Lortabs from my dad's stash, and then um, the medicine that he was prescribed and overdosed on it, intentionally overdosed on it. And that was, a result of the medications. Instead of parents being parents and, giving good counsel and love, they get them prescription medication. Yeah, see, this is me and him at our last road trip. This is me and him. I mean, we were always side by side in every picture almost. They could even say, oh, this is his fault or whatever, try to imply that I had something to do with it by how mean and cruel I was is beyond me. It just blows me away. But the thing that's shocking to me in my family's case, my brother's case, is that I went to live with my parents for a couple of months before I ended up being homeless. And this is me and him hugging and loving, not long before his death. It's one of our road trips here, him and I chilling. But the thing that blows me away is that I committed suicide. I attempted to commit suicide at age 17 when I was living with my parents, before I ended up moving out and on my own and going to Seattle. And I overdosed on Wellbutrin. And fortunately, I called my grandma and I said, hey, goodbye, I love you, probably see you sometime in the future, but I'm not going to see you for a while, so I just wanted to let you know I love you. And I didn't tell her I was going to kill myself. I just I guess I laid a hint out there, thank goodness. And, defense mechanism, I guess. Fortunately, I called the right person. I called my grandma. She figured it out. She told my uncle, she's like, hey, call the cops. I think he's going to commit suicide. And they busted down the door in my room that I had barricaded fairly good. And, I was on the floor unconscious, having seizures. And they brought me back. They pumped my stomach. And then that was the day that I left for Seattle. The next day is when I got on the bus and left for Seattle. And so why they would, knowing that that's what caused me to commit suicide, was that they had prescribed me drugs, antidepressant drugs. And the labels are explicit. They tell you straight on it, straight honestly on the labels that the side effects of these drugs, of these benzodiazepines, include hallucinations, insomnia, psychosis, excitability, irritability, aggressive behavior, agitation, hostility, anxiety, vivid dreams, hyperactivity, organic disinhibition, depersonalization, apathy, excitement, feeling mad, illusions, nightmares, sleep disorders, suicide ideation, and rage are just a few of the side effects caused by benzos. And my other brother, I have another brother that my mom has prescribed or gotten him on Klonopin because when my brother Justin died, my other brother had an anxiety attack, so she immediately goes down and gets him Klonopin. You can see the side effects. Here's the side effects of Ativan. Ativan and Klonopin are the same, exactly, almost in every way. Let's see, Ativan, or lorazepam, is a benzodiazepine used for the management of anxiety disorders, insomnia, panic attacks, and alcohol withdrawal. Ativan is available in generic form. Common side effects of Ativan include drowsiness, dizziness, tiredness, muscle weakness, headache, blurred vision, sleep problems, loss of balance and coordination, forgetfulness or amnesia, difficulty concentrating, nausea, vomiting, constipation, changes of appetite, skin rash. And then here it is, the warnings. Call your doctor if you have any of these serious side effects. Confusion, depressed mood, thoughts of suicide or hurting yourself, hyperactivity, agitation, hostility, hallucinations, feeling lightheaded, fainting. Any of that, call your doctor or whatever. Utah, where my family was raised, has a higher than average in the United States by sometimes as much as twice as much and 3 times as much. Salt Lake City has 3 times the prescription abuse rate as New York and as LA. Utah has twice the national average of prescription drug abuse, and Utah has higher than average by far teen suicide rate, often being number 1 in the nation for teen suicide depending on the year, and often being ranked 9 or above for overall suicide. Utah is a really disturbing place for psychosis and prescription medication abuse. The problem really is that they shun recreational drugs like safe and harmless marijuana so harshly. And that was a big fight between my parents and I, or at least my mom and I. My dad was fairly rational on that subject. My mom was kind of hypersensitive with marijuana. But, they shun marijuana, things that are, relieving to, issues of psychosis and anxiety and depression that have never killed anybody. And they shun it so greatly, but then they turn to these things that are so deadly. And that's what's scary to me. And so that's why I've spoke out about it. To me, it's a serious enough problem that I basically risk my parents' relationship. My dad and I were good friends until the end. After he got clean and sober, him and I did pretty good together as friends, and we got some pretty good conversations between him and I recorded. But before he died, I wrote this back in, well, you can see it goes back on the Internet Archive as far as November 2002. If you go to archive.org, and the biography is mystory.behindzioncurtain.com, and I talk about the prescription drugs and things a little bit here. And by the time I was 12, I had been prescribed ADHD medication like Ritalin, and then Dexedrine, and then later on Zoloft, Tegretol, and can't remember the other one. And my mom was on a range of them, a wide range of them: Prozac, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, all these others. And no wonder there was so much psychosis and issues in our family that don't exist now. I mean, hell, I don't have them in my personal family. My wife and I and my kids are healthy and mentally happy without all these crazy psychosis drugs. But it seems like my parents were just lazy. Instead of dealing with kids' problems one-on-one, they would just go to the doctor and say, hey, can you prescribe a magic pill? And it just blew me away that after I tried to commit suicide using those drugs, and that was what I overdosed on, was the drugs they had me prescribed, that they would go and get my brother the same drugs. So, and then he kills himself, And then my other brother, I mean, he has a similar story to Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks did an interview about her episode with Klonopin, and that's what my other brother is on. He's been on for 15 years. And she says, in Stevie Nicks' interview about Klonopin, Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac, she says she basically lost 8 years of her life on this drug. You can see here, she says Klonopin is more deadly than Coke. This is an interview of hers in 2009. And I agree. I think that it is so bad. It is so terrible. And I can't imagine any reasonable parent going to these very deadly, dangerous drugs that cause psychosis. They don't help psychosis. They actually cause psychosis. Maybe go to your doctor and get a second opinion. I'm not saying my opinion is gold here. I'm not a doctor, but man, these doctors are paid to push these drugs. And literally, they get sponsorships, they get speaking jobs for these drug companies, where they get paid massive amounts of money. They get paid to push these crazy drugs. And so I don't even trust a doctor's opinion on these things, because it's just so irrational to prescribe these deadly, dangerous, volatile drugs. That's my warning. Rest in peace, Chris Cornell. Like I said, he had a major influence on my life. Be good to your kids. Just talk to them. Give them your time. Don't give them drugs.